Today I'm joined by Tee Dobinson, an executive coach, award-winning author and trusted advisor to senior leaders around the world. Tee, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa, and thanks so much for the invite. I'm delighted to be here with you today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Pleasure. To kick things off, can you share a little bit about the work that you do and the role you play in your business?
Yes, I feel very fortunate because I have a variety of things. They all kind of link into helping people and businesses become more confident. But I work with leaders as a coach or doing leadership and management programs, which is very exciting. I write, and also I have a creative agency, which I started with my husband. It paused. We sadly lost him, so it paused for a
Oh,
while. But I'm now doing it with my son, which is great, and a
oh,
whole
it's
new
beautiful.
generation of work. So I have all three things: working with individuals, working with companies, and producing beautiful material for companies, led by an exciting 26-year-old, which is a new start.
Great energy.
Yeah, great. And lots of brilliant ideas.
Definitely, definitely. And what trends are you seeing in your space right now? What are you
So
noticing?
there is anxiety in leadership at the
Yeah.
moment. And so some of what I'm doing is calming people down. They can do this. They will ride whatever storms come. Um, and it has been for a while, and I think it remains about having faith in yourself and your style and the way you speak to others and how you make people feel. Most of my work revolves around that two things: how I feel, how I operate as a leader, and how I make people feel, how I engage and bring people with me. And bringing people with you, I think, in times of uncertainty or some of the troubling times, as well as the good times, is the challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. And what is there any advantages that you're noticing at the moment, or challenges that you're seeing in your landscape?
It's a tricky one because I certainly can't speak for every industry at all.
Yeah,
I mean, what I am seeing is there's an opportunity for people to be visible, to make a stand, to think about their own brand as well as their business
yeah,
brand, to speak clearly about both. I think they need to think about what they stand for, what their business represents, where they position themselves, and then how they want to do that. So it's a values piece, really. I think it's really underpinning everything for leaders at the moment. What are your values? How are you
yeah,
expressing them? Where is the business positioned right now?
yeah. No, definitely. That actually brings me on quite nicely to my next question, T, which I was going to
Okay.
say is, how do you approach your marketing and your business development? You mentioned getting that message out there and the value across.
It's really interesting. So I'm very lucky. I work with a training company. They're brilliant, called Aspire Leadership. So I do
Yeah,
leadership and management programs through them. I love working with them. It's a fantastic team of people. And they do all the marketing for that. I leave that
okay,
to them. I just deal with my clients on their behalf, and it works brilliantly. For my own, I'm very fortunate in my Tower Bridge Cat series because I work with, the iconic Tower Bridge, and there's a trail there based on the book's characters. So of course Tower Bridge do that.
yeah,
They have, I mean, 300,000 children last year went through our trail, and
wow,
I have to do little. I mean, I had to create them and have to look after Bella, the Tower Bridge cat. But I'm very fortunate, Lisa, in that in both of those areas, the institutions themselves are doing the marketing.
yeah,
Now, it's really interesting because we spoke about this already a little bit, because I feel I'm actually, personally, not great.
right,
Social media, marketing, all those things. Even though I'm working with people all the time and I talk to them about how they are taking their brand forward. It is one of those strange questions when it comes down to you. So I'm really having to learn my own lessons.
yeah.
Absolutely. I'm having to reread my own chapters in the book and think, yes, you can do this. It's really interesting. So
It's it's a bit of a fine art, isn't it, when it comes to marketing and branding?
I mean, I'm very clear about what my brand is and who I am, about my values and what I represent, those things. There's just sometimes, if I can be completely honest, there's this moment I think I don't want to talk about myself. And then I work with people who are saying to me, I don't want to talk about myself. And I'm going, but you don't want to be the world's best kept secret.
Very
And I
true.
even have this model, I talk about a seesaw. I was working with a guy yesterday, very high up in his company. And he said, I don't mind talking about the company, but I don't want to talk about myself. And and actually then how he's perceived can be that we can make assumptions about that he's not interested, that he's not
Yeah.
knowledgeable, that he doesn't care. And so I gave him this seesaw model, which is like at one end of the seesaw, the high end, somebody's just standing there and shouting, I'm amazing, this is me,
Yeah.
I'm standing on a table. And he doesn't want to be that person. But at the other end, which is where he is, and sometimes where I am, is you're not saying anything. You're really quiet. So I talk to my clients, and I'm talking to you, about being in that middle space, a bit more balanced. You don't have to shout loudly how fantastic you are, but, you know,
Yeah.
there does need to be some kind of trumpet, even if
Yeah,
you're
you
not
got
going to
to,
blow it
yeah,
loudly.
exactly. Yeah.
And we are so fortunate because there are so many brilliant ways to spread your message. So I encouraged him yesterday. What would it be like? What would you say in that middle place? How would you use the marketing? How would you promote yourself in meetings? How would you even speak up to quash some of the assumptions people are having because you are quiet?
Yeah.
So I'm relating that very much to the journey of this new book. What can I use? How can I say? And how can I take the middle place for myself as well as for other people? I suppose we do actually teach what we need to know most of all. So
Yeah. That's so good. That's so brilliant because it really is quite poignant what you're mentioning there. And I think that is the same with a lot of people. They can speak about businesses and things that aren't personal or them, but sometimes to get their own message across, it can be hard. And we don't know why, but
yeah,
yeah,
and modesty is kind of a virtue, isn't it? We like the
yeah,
humble leader. We
yeah,
like, the modest. We like to put other people first. But it's when I think it's actually affecting the work that you do, the impact that you have, it's affecting your brand and your
yeah,
visibility, and it's just a missed opportunity. So, I mean, I did think before I come on, shall I just say to Lisa, yeah, I've really got this handled. I have somebody brilliant advising me. He's given me a whole um, social media strategy I should do with a new book. And or should I be honest and go, I've looked at the strategy, but I haven't actually done it all myself
implemented it.
yet.
Yeah.
So I decided to go with the honest route.
Well, and
And
that's the best one.
I've got,
Yeah.
I've got 8 weeks before publication, so we've got time.
There's still time. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, you'll smash it. You'll be brilliant.
Thank you.
How is your current landscape at the moment, T? What sets you apart to your competitors?
Um, it's really interesting. I did a presentation recently on winning client business, and I do believe it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
And but also, I'm a little bit obsessive. I've been, and I think sometimes to really succeed, you need to really put everything into it.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I put everything into my projects, everything into my people. So I really want to do everything to make that person as confident as they can be, as effective, as a great communicator as they can be. So I'm obsessive about that. I'm just coming out of this period of this book, so I've been obsessive about that, and I'm also obsessive about building client relationships. So when I was talking to this group of people, and I was saying, does that make me a bad person that I'm thinking all the time about relationships? I buy my delegates chocolates. I remember their birthday. We celebrate things. I bought people little trophies the other day. And they're not things that will directly gain business, but they are things that build relationships.
Absolutely.
So I do
Yeah.
them both naturally and intentionally. And we had this big, I said, does that make me a bad person? Because I'm a bit obsessive about it, and I do it deliberately and consciously. And then it led us into a discussion about the difference between influence and manipulation. And there's this great 13th century definition of influence, which was to have sway over another body or thought, which, is kind of really to affect how somebody acts, feels, or thinks is influence today. And it's why we have the term influencer. And the term manipulation is almost the same to affect how somebody thinks, feels, or acts. And the one I like best, Lisa, is with nefarious intent. I think you need a cartoon villain laughing at this moment.
Yeah.
And I do think it's about an intent. And if a leader is working with positive intent through their business, and they are intentional about how they act, about their marketing, about their branding, about their social media, and actually, if it can work with a positive intent, you're doing a service that makes things easier for your people. You're offering a product that makes life smoother.
Yeah.
And your intent is positive. I feel that intentional influencing is okay.
I
What
think
do
it's
you think?
perfectly fine. Yeah, no, totally agree. And it's all
Well,
about getting
and
people in alignment with you as well, isn't it? To
yeah,
get
so
to the goal
it's
you all
totally,
want
and
to get
that's
to together.
what you do. I mean, it is really interesting what you're doing at the moment. You're actually helping people, aren't you, with their
Yeah,
personal alignment and taking it forward and helping them on a journey. So I think what
exactly.
you're doing, Lisa, is and really brilliant.
Thank you. No, we're trying. But no, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And T, what would a typical day look like in your world? If there is one.
Well, it's really interesting. It's that question, is there one? Because there
Yeah.
is a huge amount of variety, and I actually love that. I think it's really interesting that with everything I do, there's a thread of education. I mean, a long time ago, I was a school teacher. I trained school teachers, but it doesn't sound right to say that there's a thread of education because it makes us think of primary school classes and um, yeah, I think that's what it is because so some days I might be running a program. Yesterday I ran a program for Aspire Leadership. It was fantastic. Then I worked with an individual in the evening, one-to-one executive coaching. Today I'm sorting all the Tabridge cat orders. I've got a visit with them. I'm also talking to a new company about possibly monetizing their brand by having a product like the Townbridge Cat that does a really good thing, offers something for families, lets younger children enjoy the bridge, um, yet does it in a way that actually is a commercial success as well. So all of that, I'm educating them, helping them to make money from
Yeah.
something. I'm helping my client last night have a better impact in his meetings. So I do think it's education, but I rarely say that. So I suppose my days are not typical, although over a month you'll see a recurring pattern. There's
Yeah.
admin days, there's presenting days, there's a lovely, maybe there's a conference talk, speak to a big or small audience. So I see a recurring pattern, but what I don't do is wake up in the morning at 8, take the dogs for a walk, and
Yeah.
then go and sit in the office all day. I do
Yeah,
something different.
it's yeah. No, well, and that's the best way to be, really, isn't it? To have something different, all the
I think
time.
I
So,
think it's a choice. I mean, I have a friend who's
yeah.
a financial director in a company, and she always says to me, "I would hate your job."
Oh,
She works for that company 5 days. She does 3 in the office, 2 at home. She has
yeah.
the same journey. She works with the same people, although, the challenges vary. There's a pattern that which she really enjoys. And I also think it's about knowing what suits you.
Yeah.
So that really suits her. She likes the journey, she likes the challenge, she likes the job, she likes the continuity. And for me, it suits me working with all these different people and helping all these different people. And I get quite excited about the contact I have. Although there are days that I think I would love, to have the same people every day and be part of that same
Yeah.
community. So I think I've had to create a community. So based in the creative agency, we will work with photographers and illustrators, and we've worked with lots of people many times. So creating a community where you do work is important. But I have to create mine as I go. And there are lots of people that I meet once and I don't see again. And that, it makes me slightly sad, while also being privileged to be part of their life for a while.
Yeah, definitely. And what
It's
are your metrics? What's your key measurements that is it like client transformation, internal growth, reach?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I want to make money.
Absolutely.
I want to, I like to support my family. I like to do things. The money enables me to do things
Yeah.
for people. I really like that. Um, yeah, I can't do anything that doesn't sit well with me. So I suppose the growth is people's success. Can I tell you about one of my clients that I'm working with? She'll love that I
Yeah.
talk about her. So her name's Louise. I've been working with her, and she came because she had to take. She's very senior. She had to take a new challenge, and she said, "I just don't know if I'm up to it. I don't know if I have the confidence to take it on. I feel a bit overwhelmed by this new challenge." And then I started speaking to her, and I asked her what she had on. It was my first meeting with her. I didn't know. So we were talking about all the things that she had had in the last 6 months, the work projects, the business, the trickiness in the world that was affecting their business, and some personal things too. And I said, that's a lot. So I got her to imagine a bucket. I asked, what does
Right.
it look like? She said, it's a pink bucket. So I said, okay. And I asked her to put things in, and she imagined she was putting all these things in the bucket. And I said, I think it's more than halfway. I think it's really getting full now. And actually, what we realized with this kind of analogy or metaphor was that the bucket was so full, there was no room for anything else. So actually, she didn't need more confidence. She didn't need, more skills. She needed a hole in the bucket.
Yeah, she needed a break. Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
this is the first time that a bucket with a hole in is going to be useful. So, she made a hole in the bucket,
Yeah.
metaphorically. And I said, what can drain out of that bucket now? What are you holding and carrying that actually you can let go of? And it was interesting because she went away. We met again 2 weeks later, and it was one of many things that we talked about. But she said, "I haven't stopped thinking about the bucket." I said, "Okay, well, it can be Louise's bucket. You're the first client I've used this analogy with." And she said, "Everything. I've let lots of things go, and I've also recognised that there are some things that are quite heavy that my business and I are still dealing with." So it's put her new challenge in perspective. There was a little bit of room in the bucket. And for me, the fact that that's what I measure it by, the growth that she said that is making a difference in her business, in this new project, in her own peace of mind. So then, Lisa, I feel, well, okay, I've done a really good thing.
Definitely. Definitely. And I love that analogy of the bucket and letting things go that might be blocking you from other really good things. You
Yeah,
got to let go of the small stuff sometimes and not sweat it and think
yeah.
about the bigger picture. So I
And
love
into your
that.
bucket full of
Yeah.
more stuff that you could let go.
Yeah.
And also recognizing some things you've still got to carry. It was really interesting. So there's a little section, I now put it in. It was the last thing I added into the book. So I added in the bucket because the book's full of stories and tips. I didn't want it to be one long read. It's lots of over 100 short reads. And I said to her, Louise, I've just said my client and the bucket, I said, this is what I've said. Would you like it to be Louise's bucket? It's really up to you. And so she said, I want it to be Louise's bucket. I'm very attached to it. So
Yeah.
obviously, when you get your copy, you get it and it is Louise's bucket. But seriously, that's the measure for me. And actually, I see it in many communities, in many B Corp companies. Aspire Leadership is a B Corp. It's a very hard-won certification. And I see it's really about respecting people and how you make people feel being a measure of success.
Yeah.
So that was a long answer. I hope that's
That
okay.
was a brilliant answer. Thank you. And looking ahead, what are your goals for the next 12 months?
Well, I've already obsessed. I've already said I'm obsessed with confidence by numbers. So that is my goal.
Yeah.
Um, to bring it to more people, to let people see it, to let it help people. I hope it does help people. I know many authors in the self-development, personal development space, we are writing because we do want to help people.
Yeah.
You know, you're writing because you think you've got something to say. But it got to the point where I thought, do I have anything to say? Is this actually good? I don't know anymore. I've been working on it for a while, so I'm just taking a leap of faith that it is. So that is my goal. And also my goal is what you do is to actually I can tackle the company. I can even talk about Basden. I open talking about Basden tonight. Very happy to talk about other things. But this book is so personal. So to do the social media campaign, to do the branding campaign, and to talk very much about me as the author of this, I'm happy to be the author of the 4 Tower Bridge Cat books. I have a brilliant illustrator, Steve Cox. He's amazing. But this bit is my challenge. So actually, when your invitation came in and what you do and the chat that we can have about that, it seemed a really good time because Lisa, is my challenge.
Okay.
I'm very busy helping other people and I loved that. I love that. But when you turn it on yourself, so I suppose I'm working very hard for the next 6 months to realize that actually by helping myself, I can help other people.
Yeah.
And that might enable me to do it. We'll see. We'll check in again in 6 months.
I'm sure you're going to do brilliantly. I'm
I'll
confident on that.
my invisible, or have I actually taken it? I think actually serving others is the way to look. You know, look at your brand. What's the
Absolutely.
next 6 months? Am I allowed to ask? Tell me about the next 6 months for you.
Oh, for me? Well, yeah, busy. Growing, we've obviously just launched this new podcast. So it's getting our name out there, getting the message out there, helping, business owners like yourself, Tee, and just trying to, spread the word as much as we can and help as much as we can. So, yeah, it's exciting, nervous, but, it's overcoming a few obstacles as well to
get to this place already.
Yeah.
And you do it with your brother, yes?
Yeah, and my cousin Rebecca. Rebecca's my other co-host, so you'll see her on some of the other episodes. So yeah.
I know I'm not interviewing you, you're interviewing me, but one thing we have in common is that we work with our family.
Yes, we do.
So like my mum is my bookkeeper, my
Yeah.
son is an illustrator, does some projects, and now is kind of leading off with Basden. I worked with my husband for a long time. I like having people close. The people who run Aspire Leadership, I've worked with them for 20 years. So I love that.
If you had a magic wand, which I'm sure we all wish we did have, what would be the one friction point in your business that you would remove and why?
I suppose there's 2 challenges. There's always the challenge of time for small businesses.
Yep.
And the magic wand would be great because it would give me more time. I try to tell myself and other people to think about above and below, have a line, and to put the things in. These are the things that are above the line. These are the things that need focusing, need doing. And these are the things that actually should be below the line. And they might be very tempting. And they might be other people might ask, or they're very tempting, or the small things we were talking about. But I really try to focus on what's above the line because time is a challenge.
Yeah.
As a small business owner, time is a challenge. I know it hasn't been an issue for me yet because we haven't asked for external funding, but I know for a lot of female founders, external funding is an issue. And the figures do show atrocious differences. So I would very much like female founders to have this, to be treated equally and have the same funding opportunities, which is an opportunity for growth that their counterparts have. So that I see could be a challenge, and I really think I'm joining the people that are advocates for fighting for equality there.
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting point that you make there, Tee. Absolutely. Okay. And it should be equal.
Yeah, I mean, the statistics are quite frightening how it isn't equal, even in 2025. So but fighting for it is good.
Yeah, that's it. You just have to keep, like you say, marching forward and
In uncertain times, it's controlling what you can. What can I control?
exactly.
Communicating to your teams, what we do know as opposed to what we don't know and making it up even worse than it is. This is what I know, this is what I can do. And I think in terms of our time, it's very much, okay, let's get really focused. This is what we can do. This is what we should be doing. It's above the line. Let's really get that definition and focus where we can.
And what would your biggest frustration in business? What would that be? And what makes it stand out?
What makes it stand out? Well, I think I'm very fortunate. I don't have too many frustrations. I'm
Well,
really
that's
lucky.
good.
I've got to this point that I'm doing lots of things. And the only frustration is myself. I'm not willing to stand on a table and promote myself. So maybe slightly I'm the frustration at times. And I help other people get out of their own way. So I think I do know that I'm fortunate that lots of things have worked out really well. Um, although, along the way you just keep going. You don't actually know sometimes if what you're doing is going to, you know, become a success, but you just keep trying and
Just
believing
keep
that
going.
it,
Yeah.
it will, even if it ends up slightly morphed into something different. Um, yeah, I think I remember once years ago, Lisa, doing this presentation in a conference. And I was standing on the stage wearing some beautiful red suit that I completely loved, and I was talking about confidence. And this woman in the front row said, "Hey, it's all right for you, T, standing there in your beautiful red suit, talking to us about confidence. You know, it's easy for you."
Okay.
And she wasn't nasty. She was coming
No.
from a place it wasn't easy for her. And I
Yeah.
said, this is just a suit. I like this suit. It's my favorite color. And I, exactly the same as you, have those days when my confidence number feels like a one. I'm standing up here doing a job. I'm 9 out of 10, but I have those days. And the fact that I know that our confidence comes in and out, I really understand. And I'm definitely not here to talk to this woman or the others. And I said to her, I'm definitely not here to talk to you and say to you, it's easy to be confident. It's easy to run a business. I'm saying, go with the waves. The
Yeah.
waves will come, but just as we can go down, we can go up too. So have faith, have belief, keep going. Whatever comes, just pick yourself up and keep going.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not standing here and saying I'm confident at every moment. And I think when I talk to you and I know the business that you're in, and I talk about actually doing my social media campaign that my lovely friend Chris has given me, when I think about that, I did think, how can an author of a book about confidence have moments of low confidence? And then I thought, no, that's exactly what I'm telling people. You do have these moments and then they pass. And then you
Exactly.
pick yourself up, you do something different, you boost yourself, your number rises, and you carry on and you do the challenge. So I hope it's very human that that's my
Exactly.
frustration.
Yeah. And that's probably why you can write about it so well, is having that experience yourself and knowing, and you're coming from a place of, I
Yeah,
know how
I'm
this
aware.
feels,
And
and this is how we can, overcome. And
yeah, and I
yeah,
care about people and I want to make it easy. And I definitely don't want to be, well, look at me, I've done all this and I can do this and I'm standing here in my beautiful red suit. And it's,
yeah,
because I think that's not helpful to anyone. It's much more helpful to say, sometimes I'll say to people, I was on this podcast the other day and I said to the host, well, I think the biggest frustration is myself, that I get in my own way sometimes. So I'll use this now, will be part of a story.
and I think that will resonate with so many people. For myself, I know I'm probably the one thing that steps in my way the most, and I think that'd be true for many people out there.
Yeah.
So
And I know
yeah,
you talk to me, and you can delete this if it's too personal, but you talk to me about your daughters going off to university, and that you're encouraging them to be happy and to be
yeah,
themselves and to go. And we want them not to stand in their own way, and we want them
Yeah.
to take this path, don't we? And
Yeah.
I can see what a brilliant mum you are, and that you're,
Thank
you
you.
know, you're going, I feel sad, but I'm lit, you know, I'm encouraging you to
Yeah.
take your own path and absolutely get out of our own way and just do it.
Yeah. Leap of
Yeah.
faith.
Keep the keep the faith. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, build faith, and I want leaders to have faith in themselves, and then also to give them little tips on how to do things better, because there are, you know, there are issues that come up. Um, but often I think there's not fundamental, I'm never dealing with any fundamental personality changes with people. That wouldn't be possible. You know, I can't give anyone a
Yeah.
personality transplant. Um, but I work with great people, and there aren't any big changes that are needed, but they're just, you know, sometimes it's really nice to have a small hack or a small tip, isn't
Yeah.
it?
A little tweak. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I like what you're doing in your business. You're doing small tips that can really accelerate somebody's journey, you know, and
Exactly.
we're both working with people's journeys just in different ways.
Yeah. Definitely. And talking about journeys, T, you're also a
Okay.
published author. Can you tell us a bit about that journey?
Okay. Well, I wrote one book years ago and negotiated the contract really, really badly, and it, you know, kind of affected my confidence. And then I did other things, and I've edited a lot of publications. I suppose the Towerbridge Cat now is our biggest success, and it's really, really exciting. Um, but anyone out there who's thinking of writing something or writing something with somebody else, I just want to say I did for 4 years say to the wonderful team at Towerbridge, you know, who wanted a book about a cat who lived on the bridge, and I did say I can do that. I can
Yeah.
do that. You know, do you remember that idea? I can do that. How about that idea? I can do that. I can
Yeah.
really write that. And eventually, I think I wore them down, and they went, okay, okay, you can do
Yeah.
it. And we did the first book, which instantly, you know, won an award, became a best-selling book. And, you know, now there are 4 books and a soft toy and a trail and all these things. And even my son said to me last summer, you know, when we found out how many people were enjoying it, and the trails now in its 3rd year, and he said, Mum, you know, this is a bit bonkers. So, I mean, it is really bonkers. It's so exciting. People send me pictures of their child reading the Towerbridge Cat on the train, and, you know, people have Bella under their arm when they're visiting Australia or something. And so I would just say to everyone, you know, it's not instant, but keep going. There was all that time when I said I can do that. There were many. I won't bore you with all the bumps and the frustrations along the way, but there was just that, first of all, saying I can do this. I can do this, and then just doing it and keep on doing it. I remember I did a guide for the view from the Gherkin, and I tried to persuade everybody. And I thought the hardest job was persuading the building to let me do the guide. I said, you
Right.
know, I think you need a guide about everything you have in the view. And eventually they said yes. And then I realised I'd actually taken on the whole of London, because
Oh
I said
no.
I'd identify 100 things in the view and write
Yeah.
interesting stories about all of them. So I think you don't know what you're going to start, but just keep going. And the extraordinary success we've had, which I'm so very grateful for, so many people have been involved in it. So many people have contributed along the way. And yet, I think as a leader, you do need that vision to say, I am going to do this. I can do this. I am going to do it. Oh, it's not going quite right. No, I'm going to do it this way. And just keep going. Also, actually, now there are many, many ways to be published that there weren't originally. You
Yeah.
know, there are many ways for authors to get their work out there and share it. So embrace them. You know, there are many ways to share the message. And, you know, I wouldn't pay anyone a fortune to do it for you,
No.
but there are lots of ways to do it that aren't costly and are accessible. So get your material out there.
Absolutely. I mean, there are many different platforms, like you say, T.
There are definitely
Yeah.
ways, you know, definitely ways to share the material. And then if the material speaks for itself and you have great advice, like to
Yeah.
lead out, or you take a step, like the step that I'm going to do, and go, I'm going to speak from the middle place, and I'm
Yeah.
actually going to talk about this. There are many platforms to promote it from, and
Hmm.
people have things to say. They should share them.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more. Definitely.
Okay.
And finally, T,
Fine.
if you,
Your final question.
okay, my final question. If you could share one piece of wisdom with leaders navigating change, what would that be?
My one piece of advice for leaders generally is to say, you know, to say, yes, I can do that, and then work out a way to do it. But I think it's slightly differently with leaders navigating change, is to really look carefully. What does our business need right now? What do I need? Where can I add value? What do I have to say no to, as well as what do I have to say yes to?
Yeah.
So
No.
slightly too different, Absolutely, I'm always saying, yes, I can do that and working out how afterwards. And I also think it's a very important lesson to say, actually, no, this
Yeah.
doesn't suit me. This is below the line. I'm not going to do that. Our
Yeah.
business is not going to do this.
Yeah.
And so, in navigating a landscape ahead, there might be lots of no's as well as the fantastic yeses.
Yeah, it's just filtering them through, isn't it? Knowing
Yeah.
which are opportunities, and then, like you say, go for it. Just don't hold
Absolutely,
yourself back.
absolutely.
Just go for it.
No, go
Yeah,
for it. Okay,
oh,
and enjoy it.
yeah,
And then maybe
that's
it
it.
might even become, as my son says, it might become bonkers. The success of the company just might go through the roof.
You just never know.
And it's a journey. Enjoy the journey, I'd say.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much. It has been an absolute honour and a pleasure having you on the show today. I
Thank
thoroughly enjoyed
you.
our conversation, so thank you so much for taking this time out.
I've really enjoyed it too, and Lisa, I wish you and your business every success too. Thank you.
Thank
It's been
you.
a privilege and a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.